So you're self-employed or you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to figure out how to pay yourself or how to make the decision of how you want to pay yourself. I'm going to share 4 things to consider in this video. Let's get into it. Hey, this is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. So I create content to help people along their startup journey, whether they're starting a nonprofit or whether they are venturing into self-employment, being an entrepreneur, all the things. So in this video, I want to give you some tips around how to decide when to pay yourself or how to pay yourself. What are the things that should go into your decision-making process? I'm going to give a caveat in the very beginning. Let's just get this out the way. I'm not an accountant or an attorney, and neither am I your accountant or your attorney. And the reason why I'm doing this video is that I find that sometimes when you look up content online, they don't speak regular language, and you want to get the perspective of people who've been through this experience so you can get their insight. I have been self-employed. I am an entrepreneur. I now work for myself full time, and these are all the things I had to think about before I decided to pay myself. Also, let me be clear that this video is mainly for people who have for-profit businesses. If you want considerations for a nonprofit and how to pay yourself, I actually recorded a video on this and I'm linking it above. Okay, here are the 4 things that need to go into your decision-making process about how to pay yourself. Number 1 is absolutely crucial. It is to get an accountant. So some of you are like, I cannot afford an accountant. These people are going to charge me $700, $900 just to do my taxes. I don't think it's worth it. I'm not used to paying that much on my taxes. I'm telling you, get an accountant. And even if you're not going to get an accountant to do regular bookkeeping and stay up on how you're doing your record keeping, at least consult with one so they can help guide you along the process. The reason why I'm saying get an accountant is because they can help you decide for your personal tax situation what is best and better for you. They have models and formulas that they use. They talk to countless people, so they've been through the scenarios. They've worked through all the different situations to help advise you the best way to go. It's one thing to get generic advice on the internet, and that's a good starting place. I really do believe you have to learn for yourself so that you can have smart and intelligent conversations with the consultants or the professionals that you pay. But you also have to lean on them for the advice and the consultation that they can provide. And they provide it because they've been doing this work and they understand the theory and the why behind why things are set up and can really help you make smarter decisions. In this video, I'm sticking with sole proprietorship, LLC, and S Corp because those are typically the structures for people with smaller businesses, you know, businesses under $1 million, things like that. I'm really just focusing on those 3 structures. But even within those 3 structures, there are so many considerations and caveats, and you just need somebody who's wise and who's been there to help guide you. So the first thing you should do is engage an accountant and get some consultation from an accountant. And even if you're not going to use them for your taxes yet, you can pay $100 or $150 for a consultation just so you are making a wise decision from the very beginning. The second thing you need to think about, which very much relates to what I just talked about, is your business structure. So how you want to pay yourself differs based on your business structure. So if you are a sole proprietorship, how you pay yourself is going to be different than if you're an LLC and you elect to be taxed as an S corporation, right? So based on the business structure that you have or you set up for your business, then how you can take taxes out, what the rules are, really change from structure to structure. For example, and again, I'm just using very simple terms because I'm not an accountant, but if you elect to be taxed as an S corporation, then you have to take what's considered reasonable compensation by the IRS, meaning you have to take a salary, you have to pay yourself. Now, you don't necessarily have to pay yourself bi-weekly and not necessarily monthly either, but you do need to have some kind of reasonable salary throughout the year, because if you don't, then you may risk being audited and the IRS kind of making you pay penalties because you might be trying to skip out on taxes. And the reason why I'm saying that is because people choose to be taxed as an S corp sometimes is because it can help them avoid a hefty tax bill. So for an LLC, you may just be able to transfer money from your business account to your personal account, but if you're being taxed as an S Corp, how you do that and how much you do that really matters. You need to have a formula for doing that. And so again, that's why having an accountant matters, because they can tell you what to do, but it also depends on what structure you're using or how you set yourself up as your business. The next thing you want to think about is how you're going to transfer that money to yourself when you're doing the payment to yourself. Like, what is the mechanism for doing that? Is it going to be through a payroll company? What's your relationship with the business? Are you going to be a W-2 employee? Well, if you're a W-2 employee, that means that there's certain paperwork that needs to be filled out, and there are reports that need to be submitted quarterly to the IRS and to your state. That may also mean that you need to get certain insurances or file different things. In my state, I have to have a retirement account set up for employees. So if you are designated as an employee, then that's part of your compensation package. So you need to be thinking about, like, what is the mechanism how you want to get paid? Is it a W-2 employee, which means you will be getting paid through a paycheck, like a regular job, or is it through a distribution or through a draw, which means generally you are transferring money from your business account to your personal account? Well, how are you doing that? How often are you doing that? What's the amount when you're doing that? Are you doing that on a monthly basis? Is it a small amount or is it a big amount? You have to decide for yourself how you're going to get money into your pockets, because it's not as easy as, well, when I make money, I'm just going to spend the money. The money should be separate for your personal and your business accounts. So if you know you have money over here in your business account, you got to figure out the best way to legally transfer that money so that you can use it for your needs. Not just legally, but you need to decide what makes the most sense so you don't have an unexpected tax bill or an unexpected fine from the IRS or your state. The last thing you need to think about is the amount of money that your business is making a year. So if you're making $20,000 a year, it may not make sense for you to be taxed as an S Corp, because when you are an S Corp, you have to pay yourself. You have to put yourself on payroll, right? And you know, most people can't survive on $20,000, and you probably wouldn't be paying yourself the full $20,000, maybe even less than that, because you have business expenses. So if you can't keep up payroll for a reasonable amount or for a reasonable salary, it doesn't really make sense for you to be taxed as an S Corp. But if you start getting into the six figures, if you start making over $100,000 or you start bringing in $200,000, it may make a lot of sense for you to be taxed as an S Corp and not be a sole proprietor or not be an LLC. The reason why this matters with how to pay yourself is because, again, there are different rules for the different business structures and how you pay yourself. So if your business is grossing $100,000, it may make sense for you to be elected as an S Corp, but some of that money doesn't have to come through a paycheck. So typically, most of the money that you would make if you pay yourself through an S Corp tax structure would come from a W-2, employee situation. It would come through your paycheck. But you can also take draws, or you can do distributions where some of that money may be tax-free, but you don't necessarily know how much of that should be on your check or how much of that should be through a draw or distribution, because everybody's tax situation is different. So that number may shift depending on the amount of money you make in your business. I hope that makes sense. So again, an accountant can do the work for you and create a formula for you, but how much you make a year does matter. How you decide how you're going to pay yourself and where that money is going to come from. And you don't want to take too much money where you're just transferring money to your personal account through a draw or a distribution, and the IRS flags that as an issue. So that was just some general information of what you need to think about when you're trying to pay yourself. There are other considerations. If there are other questions you have, because I've had to ask all these questions of myself, drop them in the comments below and I'll do another video on that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.